Our presenter today is Sherry James. Sherry and her husband live in Palatine and are the proud parents of 3 children. Sherry left corporate America after learning that her daughter Danielle had special needs. She discovered there was a profound need for parents of special needs kids to be connected by and connected to each other. She published a book, Take My Hand, and became a certified professional coach to offer these parents the support they needed to navigate their unique journey with grace and love. Sherry, as I mentioned, is also a member of the CTC Board of Directors, and her infectious, joyful personality always keeps our meetings fun, and we laugh and smile all the time. So she's just great to be around. We hope you'll enjoy listening to her today. So please help me welcome Sherry.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for such a wonderful welcome. No pressure. Now I have to be like joyful and delightful. So it's nice to have all of you here. I know that we had probably 8 or more 10 people signed up to join us, and they're not here. You know why? Because they're burnt out. They couldn't make it here, right? So I'm really delighted to have a chance to talk to you all today. And one of the things that I always love to start off with is, how many of you are exhausted? Just show of hands, come on. How many are exhausted, right? I know. So this gal, I love this, right? So she says, I'm one mom away from making the 6 o'clock news. And I think that's how a lot of us feel, right? You get exhausted, and some more than others. And what's really important is that we give full weight to the journey that we have. Right now, we have young adults with disabilities, and that makes our journey so much more complex, right? We're not like typical moms, we're super moms. You guys are all my heroes in here, really, you're super moms. And so what we want to do is make sure you give full weight to all that you have on your plate. So what I'd like you to do real quickly is on your plates. Everybody has a plate. You thought this was for brownies, right? I know. They wouldn't let us. But so what you're going to do on your plate is I want you to write down all the things that you do, all the things that you have on your plate, okay? And not in... Trust me, that's right. I've got more plates. But all the things that not related to caring for your young adult with a disability, okay? So just your day-to-day stuff, all the mom stuff, okay? And then we're going to add the other stuff in. So take a minute, please do it. It's fun. And actually, that's all I have prepared for today, because it'll take you until the end of the time to write it all down. But you get the idea, right? So we have so much more on our plates than the typical mom, right? When I said start adding the things that also fill up your plate when you're caring for a young adult with disabilities, it's pretty overwhelming, right? And so I don't know about you, but this is how I feel sometimes. I feel like the plate spinner at the circus, and I feel like I'm dropping plates all the time. Anybody? Anybody with me? Because there are so many balls that we're trying to keep in the air. And the first thing that we have to do is recognize that our parenting journey is so much different than most. Why? Well, because we're caring for young adults that have so many more needs, and we're trying to negotiate and navigate systems, right? Medical systems, insurance, transitioning, maybe day services, right? There's so many other things on our plate. And so we have to recognize that our journey is different than most. What happens is we tend to compare ourselves to other moms, don't we? And you think, oh gosh, how does she do it? She does it so beautifully. What's wrong with me? And what we do is we compare ourselves to other moms that don't have young adults with disabilities, and that is so unfair. Because look at your plates. Your plates are a lot more full than the average mom, right? And so what we need to do is stop comparing ourselves to other people that have no idea. I guarantee you, if you sat down with a friend and you said, you know, let me just walk you through my day. Let me just walk you through my day. They'd be exhausted within an hour of what you're telling them, what your day entails. Most parents have no clue as to what your day looks like, and nor should they, right? They really, it's unfair to expect them to. But the idea is, because our journey is so complicated, it's really, really important that we take care of ourselves and be really vigilant about taking care of ourselves. It's not about pushing through. It's about giving weight to the journey that we have and saying, okay, This is hard. This is rough, and some days I feel absolutely overwhelmed, okay? So one of the things I invite you to do is take a step back and really recognize that this is tough. You really are super moms. This is tough, and it's okay to know that this is tough. And even more the reason why we have to be so vigilant about taking care of ourselves, okay? Our bodies, not designed to be in overdrive all the time. How many of you feel like you're in overdrive all the time? I sure do. It's like there's just not enough hours, right? That's not how our bodies were designed. And unfortunately, when we are in overdrive all the time, what you're doing is having consequences on your body, right? Your body can't do it for long before all of a sudden you start forgetting things. You know, it shows up in a lot of different ways, right? When we are really in overdrive too long. And so we want to make sure that we are not getting burnt out. And caregiver burnt out is real. And here's how it's defined. The physical, mental, emotional exhaustion that occurs frequently among individuals who are responsible for the constant care of another individual. Anyone? Yeah? Can I get an amen on this one, right? Yeah, this is how we feel. We are burnt out. We have to take this seriously. And I'm wondering how it shows up in your life, because it shows up in everybody's life differently. So, I will tell you, when I am experiencing burnout, when I'm experiencing fatigue, I am a stress eater. I love my sugar, right? I do that. I start to be very short with people. I start to lose my temper. I don't sleep. How does it show up in your life? Anybody? Yeah.
Insomnia.
Insomnia, yeah, you can't sleep. Yep, check, check. I have that. Anybody else? Yeah, how does it show up?
Can't prioritize.
Yes, it's so hard to.
Thing that started all their.
Right. You start getting, and I don't know about you, Barb.
I don't finish it.
I know, and we can get really, really good at doing the things that are super easy, right? It's like, oh, I've got these really important things, but oh my goodness, I better rearrange the cabinets, because that's what needs to be done right now, right? So we're really good at stalling to take care of the things that are really important, right? How else does it show up for you guys? Yeah.
Sometimes I just shut down. Like,
Yes.
I think, oh, I deserve to watch this TV show in the middle of the day.
Yes, for 7 hours with brownies. Yes, I am so with you. Because you're exhausted. You're exhausted. Anybody else? How does it show up for you?
Mom, you do with the eating, because
Yeah.
it's more just that I don't have time to go exercise like
Right.
I'd like to be doing, so it just doesn't happen for me.
Totally.
Self-care time.
Right, no self-care. Absolutely. Love it. So for me, what you all just said, check, right? And then what tends to happen, I love this slide, is two things. We tend to take it out on the people we love, the safe relationships. Family, friends, spouse. My husband's like, it wasn't such a good day for you today. Right? So you get that. Or you said it, I want to isolate. I just want to be by myself. I just want to be, is it so much to ask for 10 minutes by myself? We want to draw away from people. I don't even want to call that friend. I don't want to do anything. I want to be by myself. That's what we tend to do. These are the two things. Unfortunately, the isolation is what we need least. When you're feeling that way, that's when you need to connect the most, right? That's where it's super important. So the challenge in all of this becomes, if you let it go on, and you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling fatigued, and you don't stop it, it's going to compound and it's not going to get worse. And it can actually lead to physical and mental illness. Some people will say, I'm already there, okay? So it really can have profound effects on your body. So what we need to do is take this seriously, okay? First step in doing that is recognizing that your emotions are real. How you're feeling is real. So you might be angry, you might be frustrated, you might be sad, you might be depressed. And we get really good at numbing the pain, don't we? We're really good at sweeping those emotions under the rug, right? How do you numb your pain? How do you numb the emotional pain? There are people that shop, yes. I'm an eater. Some people whine. pick your poison, right? But it feels better. Like you said, just sitting on the couch watching a TV show, right? It's easier to numb the pain that way. The problem with numbing is that we're not addressing the issue. We're not making it any better. We're just letting it compound and get worse. So what we need to do is do something about it. I don't know if you all have heard of Brene Brown. She's wonderful. She's an incredible author and speaker. She says we can't selectively numb the pain because when we numb the dark, the pain, we also numb the light. We can't selectively numb, right? And the light is what we need to be more resilient. So how do we become more resilient? How do we make it so that we're not feeling like we are one step away from falling into that pit of I'm so exhausted, I don't know how to get out of bed in the morning, right? So what I'm hoping today is to share some tips with you. We're not going to solve world peace today, but my hope is that you will walk away with 1 or 2 nuggets that are going to help you when you start to feel fatigued, when you start to feel burnt out, that you can do before it spins out of control, okay? That's my hope. Now, you are all on a different journey. We share that we have a young adult with a disability. Some of you have much higher functioning adults. Does that mean your journey's not rough? Absolutely not. But you might teeter on the edge of burnout, right? Occasionally, and sometimes you're rock bottom. Some of you have adults that need 24/7 care and they sleep 2 hours a night. And you're like, you know what? If I could get 3 hours of sleep, I would be so happy. You might be in a pit so deep that you can't even see out, right? So my guess is we have people along the spectrum. But these tips can work for anybody, okay? And we're also going to brainstorm as a group and share some best practices later, because you might have a pearl of wisdom you yourself have come up with that is going to really help. Encourage. We're here to encourage one another and give you some practical things that you can do to really help you with this burnout. So 5 strategies that we're going to talk about. First is self-compassion, and recognizing that you probably don't offer yourself the grace that you offer your friends or you offer family members, right? Reevaluating priorities, to Barb's point. I'm really, really good at that too, doing everything else other than the things I want, and I have a really cool tool to share with you about that. There's connection and being very intentional about making connection with other people that are going to fill your cup. Really, really important who you're surrounding yourself with, okay? Self-care, that's when everybody's like, I don't have time. Did you see my plate, Blondie? Right? Yeah, you see my plate? So we're going to talk about that. How do you do that? And then lastly, asking for help. This is so hard for us, right? Us moms, we don't ask for help. We give help, right? We put everybody else first. So let's dive into the first one, which is self-compassion. I will tell you that part of this is recognizing that we're overwhelmed, but we have every right to be overwhelmed. You are perfectly human, and your journey is tough. And it's okay to say, I'm having a hard time. What I would say to you is, if a friend was describing how you were feeling to you, what would you say to them? You wouldn't say, buck up, put your big girl pants on, what's the matter with you, right? No, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, how can I help? That sounds horrible, right? But we don't offer that same self-compassion to ourselves. So the first step here is recognizing that your road is tough and saying it's okay to feel that way. I am human. But now what I need to do is do something about it. When I start to feel fatigued, when I start to feel burnt out, I need to do something about it. And I'm going to give myself that permission to do something about it. Okay? I love one of them, my daughter. Bless her heart, she's 24, and we've had our journey, right? We've had our ups and downs, just like I'm sure you guys have many stories. But I will tell you, one of the first times I ever realized how burned out I was a day that I took her to therapy. So I've got my 5-year-old Scott, who was in preschool at the time. So he was with me. Danielle, who's going to therapy too, and little baby Derek, who is 2 months old. Yay, 5 kids under, 3 kids under 5 all at once. It was really, really excellent planning. So we went to therapy, and what did we do? I thought, okay, 45 minutes. I can do this. Got a birthday party for my son, need to go get the present, surely at Target. I can run to Jewel, get the things that I need to make for the meal for the friend of mine whose mom just died. I can do this. I've got my list, ready, go, right? I'm like, bye-bye, thank you so much for having her, and I'm out the door. Put my little guy in the car seat. Little Derek's there, and he's cooing, and I put the car in reverse, and I'm like, I look back, and I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? Scott, where's Scott? I had left Scott in the place of therapy unattended. Yeah, I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and call DCFS myself. I'm like, I'm just gonna put it on speed dial. Obviously, this is what it's gonna be. I went in, and he's in the Lego room playing happy as a clam, had no idea it was gone, and I thought, oh my God, it is time to push the pause button. It's too much. When you get to that point, it's time to do something about it. You've all been there. I'm sure you all have your stories. Yeah, thankfully Scott stayed with me. I didn't call DCFS. I give myself one more try. So anyway, so it's all about self-compassion, self-care, making sure, I love this quote, if your compassion does not include yourself, it's incomplete. Know what you're going through is tough. Some days are tougher than others, but it's okay to feel the way you feel, okay? But offer yourself the grace you would offer a friend. Okay, that's the first one. Next one is prioritizing. Revalidating your priorities and expectations, right? We all know that there's a very limited amount of time, a very limited amount of resources available to us, right? And if we could all in this room invent more time and more resources, we'd be bajillionaires, right? But we can't. So I found this great tool that was given to in a webinar that I watched by Eileen Devine, and she's a licensed social worker, and it is going to help us prioritize. This was life-changing for me. I'm telling you, ladies, this tool is fantastic, okay? So let's work through this tool so you understand how to use it, and it will help Barb and I actually get to the things that are really important to do versus reorganizing the soup cans in my cupboard, okay? So if you look across the top, and you have a copy of this in your presentation materials, if you look across the top, the access up at the top is it's urgent, it really needs to get done now, or not so urgent, okay? Doesn't necessarily have to get done right away. And then along the other axis you've got, it's important that I do it. So you might want to make a note that that's what it means, not that it's important, but it's important that I do it. Or it's not important that I do it. It could be done by somebody else, okay? So let's start up in that upper left-hand quadrant where it's urgent and it's important. So this is something, these are things that need to get done, and it's important that you personally do them, okay? These are probably the things you've been dreading, the things you've been putting off. These are doctor's appointments, right? Taking care of your health. I kid you not, I am being totally honest. I have had a list on my to-do of the 5 doctor's appointments that I have not made for 5 months. I just keep adding it to the new to-do list. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that. That's not okay, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your other ones. So things like doctor's appointments, things like setting up that meeting with the attorney to set up the trust. These are important things, especially as our kids are getting older, right? So what I want you to do is think about it right now and write down a couple of things. You can look at your plates if that helps you. But what are some things that fall into that category for you that it's important, and it's important that I do it now? Just write down a couple things. I'm going to ask you to share. Don't make me call on you.
Sharing urgent means it's important that I do it now.
You do it now.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So no wait.
But
Right.
is it just for yourself, or could it be for your child?
It's important for you to do it now, and it could be for your child too, but you're the person that has to do it, right? So you're the person that has to do it. So it might be setting up a doctor's appointment for your children. So a couple things that fall into that bucket for you. Okay, anything come to mind for anybody? Aside from the examples I gave, things that you're like, I really should do this, and it really does need to get down now. Anybody? Yes?
Paying bills or financial.
Yeah, right? Because it's like, oh, I really didn't get to that. Where's the light? Yeah, great one.
That was what I was.
Paying bills, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us feel.
Now, one of the things that you might find, especially if you're a caregiver on your own, that really would fall into your bucket. But I'm also going to challenge you on that one because it might be something that somebody could do, somebody else in your family could do. So we'll talk about that because maybe it is your thing or your gift. Like in my family, that's my husband's gift. And so I'm like, why don't you do that? You're the finance guy. Sandy will tell you as our treasurer that is not Sherry's gift. So that is a great example. But if there's somebody else in your household, that could be something you delegate, okay? Anything else come to mind? Doctor's appointments are good ones. Setting up attorneys, yeah.
Yeah, update the will.
Yeah, right, because especially if you're going on a trip and you think, oh my gosh. Or even just updating it because you need it to be updated. Love it, perfect. What were you gonna say?
Making my 25-year-old daughter's first gynecology appointment.
Yes, that's, yeah, I know it. I know, right? I know, I'm with you. So those are great examples, yeah?
Applying for Medicaid. Just keep
Me too. Shh, don't tell anybody. Yeah, me too, absolutely.
And I also have a tree in my yard that needs to be looked at. And I finally did call somebody, but I just don't know if it has to be taken down.
Right. All those things, we put them off.
Rain on me.
Right, so the operative word here, and that's why I left you a blank so you could write it in. So this is the active participation to make sure nobody falls asleep. So this is, the operative word is do it now. So if you write in that blank under urgent and important, it means do it now. Okay, don't wait any longer, do it now. These are the things that you're gonna focus in on when you go back home. Okay, moving over to the next bucket. It's not urgent, so it's not necessarily critical that it gets done today, but it is important that I do it, okay? These things, if you wait too long, they end up moving over to the critical side of things, right? So you can't wait too long on them, but these things are nurturing friendships. Remember, these are important that you do, right? So nurturing friendships doesn't have to happen today, but if you don't do it for a long period of time, it's gonna end up in the critical bucket. This might be, I love this one, exercise routine. Don't you wish? I wish so much that I could delegate that to my husband. Just be like, could you go work out for me today? Wouldn't that be great? So that exercise routine or a hobby that just fills your cup, right? It's not necessarily important that it happens today, but it really is something that you may be reading that book that you've had on your nightstand forever, right? So these are things like that. Not urgent that they happen today, but things that are important that you personally do. So if anything comes to mind, you can write it in real quick, and you can go back and fill this in, but you get the idea. Where I want to spend a lot of time is in this lower bucket, which is urgent, it needs to happen. But guess what? Not by you, okay? This should be by far the biggest list in your quadrants. And if you need to refer to your plates, because we are the queens, us moms of, I'm just gonna do it myself. Because if I leave it to somebody else, it's not gonna get done right. If I wanna get it done, I'm just gonna do it, right? Oh, so-and-so asked, yep, I'm just gonna do it. We do it ourselves, we don't always need to do. I guarantee you everything written on your plate is not something you have to personally do. So what kinds of things fall into this bucket? Chores. Oh yeah, I'll come to you. Yes. So it could be things like chores. It could be things like even a grocery service, having your groceries delivered. That doesn't have to happen by you if your budget can afford that. Maybe surprising yourself and giving yourself a cleaning lady once a month. It could be something like that. It could be paying the bills. That's where this one could be. If you have somebody else that can do it, it doesn't necessarily have to be by you. It might be driving your young adult. My daughter doesn't drive. And so I am forever carting her, got the cab, I put the bow tie on to just class it up, and take her everywhere, right? But I also have a 21-year-old that lives at home. There's no reason I have to always be the one taking her to places, right? Some of you might not have that luxury, but these are the kinds of things I'm thinking about. This should be a really long list. What were you gonna say, Barb?
Well, you said it. I was thinking about like the Instacart idea that
Yes.
and like gift giving that always ends up taking so much time.
Yes.
So if I could just go online or
Yes.
someone else, like, can you just, I need this, can you find it?
Yes.
Then all I have to do is press.
Send. Doesn't that make it so much easier? Shopping has gotten to be really, really easy. It's something that we can do pretty instantaneously and not spend as much time. Anything else come to mind that would be in this bucket for you guys?
Laundry.
Right. Laundry's a great one. You don't necessarily have to do it, right? And I will tell you that I have offloaded that to my husband, and I have to be, I'm like, oh, is that how you're gonna sort the piles? And he's like, do you want me to do this or not? I'm like, yes, 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 right? We'll let you do it, right? So sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes not, but laundry's a great one. Anybody else? Yeah, Sandy.
Any kind of house maintenance or
Yes.
calling somebody to do house
Yes,
maintenance.
right. You don't have to do it yourself. What's going to happen is as you offload these, you are going to find you have a little bit more free time. I'm not saying it's going to be free time like, you know, you're going to be able to go away for the weekend, but it's going to add to a little bit of space on your calendar, right? So the operative word here, the D, is delete it. Oh, no, sorry, delegate. Delegate. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Delete. The operative word up here was decide. Decide, and it's decide to schedule it. It's got to get scheduled into your calendar somewhere. You just decide when you're going to do it, okay? And the last bucket, I love this bucket. It's not urgent, not important that I do it. And you might be saying, why is it on my plate? Exactly. This is the delete it. There are things on here, delete, 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 that might be taking up time on your plate that are not important, and they're definitely not something you need to do. What are some examples? Some examples are time on social media where it doesn't fill your cup. You're looking at Facebook and you get to see how perfect everybody else's life is, right? And what does that do? Wah, wah, wah. I mean, it just drains, that sucks the life out of me, right? I've decided I have to stop because no one's posting, I had a really crappy day today. Nobody. My son got the top achievement award. That's fantastic. Like, right? Oh my gosh, it's so draining, right? So things like that, where you know it's not gonna fill your cup, okay? Other things, toxic friendships. We all have them. And I think as we get older, we get a little bit better about being boundaried, but toxic friendships can come in there. Any kind of volunteer activities that, you know what, you did your part for God and your country. You know, you don't have to be the person that still does market day. Your kids have aged out of the school system 10 years ago, right? So let somebody else have that opportunity. You're taking it away from other women, right? So that's what I do. That's how I justify this one. So this is delete it, okay? Now, you can see how easily delete it, delegate it, even if you found a few things from your plate that you can move into those buckets, that's gonna free you up just a little bit of extra time. And ladies, you know, I'll take 2 extra minutes every day, right? So be very intentional. Go back, spend some time on the plate, the things you wrote down, and if you didn't write everything down, that's okay, but use this tool because I really think it'll help you. And it will also help you prioritize the things that really need to be done, like updating the will, right? Things that really matter, that you can focus in on that, okay? Any questions on the prioritization tool?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Okay, like you're saying delegate and you have like a 21-year-old
Yeah.
that knows you could easily drive. I have a problem with that. One, because I don't, and I'm by myself.
Yes.
I have an older daughter that lives with me, but also my daughter with a disability. I feel guilty asking my other daughter to do it because I don't want her to feel like she's stepping into a parental role.
Yep, I love that. That is so great. And here's what I would say to that. If you started asking your daughter to do it all the time, that's different, right? Because then it's really not her role. But part of being a family is helping each other out, right? And so it's okay to ask. It's not something that you want to do, or maybe you want to incent that person, your other daughter, and say, look, this could really help me. And maybe what you might want to do in return for her doing that for you, this is what I'm willing to do for you because it's really going to help offload this. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one all the time. 2, it can be something that you do, you know, more occasionally, or maybe you reward her and compensate her in some way for doing it, or it's just part of being part of the family. But people are willing to help. I promise you, if you asked your daughter, she probably would say, okay. You know, but we kind of have that baggage. If you say to her, look, I'm really overwhelmed here. I really need I could use your help. When you position it that way, I could really use your help. People are much more open to helping when you say, I could really use your help. And then you could even follow up with that, if you do this for me, what could I do that would help you, right? And then you start hearing all these things, yeah, I can't do that. But really, or you also might have friends. You might have, the thing that we don't realize, and I'm going to get to this, is asking for help is the last one. But family and friends really do want to help, but they don't know how. And so it's about being direct and communicating what you need. And so something like that, I did that with, Danielle's schedule where she was going and had to be, it was impossible because I work from home to actually get her there all the time. She doesn't drive. So I actually enlisted a friend, and she was happy to help. She's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I would love to help, and she's one that's not working. And so she said, it actually brings me joy that I can be helping somebody else. So just try and think outside the box on that, because there are ways to get people to help, especially somebody that's in the house, and make it either part of what they do or not all the time, but they can help. Does that make sense? Anybody else have any suggestions?
I was just curious if you'd feel the same way if your younger one did not have special needs, if they were a typical sibling. Because I found that sometimes with my, I didn't want to burden my, if you were a typical sibling, wouldn't you ask them to drive?
Right.
Why was it different? And why was I perceiving it differently?
I think that's a really good point, Linda, too, where it's like, oh, this is not their responsibility, it's my responsibility. But it's a family. We're a family, and family helps, and we all chip in, and we all have our roles. So I'd invite you to try it out. Ask her. And then if she throws a tantrum, totally call me. All right?
What I was thinking about is, could you also have a conversation with her over dinner or drinks or something relaxed, sometime relaxed about, this is, what are areas I could be helpful to you? What are things that are working for you? Where could I help you? Here's what I'm looking for. Could you help me with that? Is there a way we could be a team to divide and conquer with these pieces on, these days of the week or these nights? What surprised me with my older son, so I have a similar situation. Older son is typical, younger son has very complicated needs, but when my older son is in, that's how he feels part of the family, is by helping. He wants to be a force of good. So I was just saying, I'm not exactly excited about him coming home for Thanksgiving week because I'm exhausted by Sunday morning because he's like, come on, Mom, and we're going to make another pumpkin pie. Oh, my legs are killing me. He loves to crack eggs. So he's always John's always looking for recipes that Will can do too. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired.
So Barb, that's a perfect one. Delegated. John, you go have fun, and Mom's going to be at the spa. Right, exactly.
So, but it is interesting, how do they feel part of the family? That's another good conversation to have. Not just about the task, but where do you feel connected and where do you feel empty?
And sometimes it's about just having that conversation, right? Opening up that dialogue, because you might be surprised what you hear. Let's move on to the next one is connection. When we tend to feel burnt out, when we tend to feel exhausted, the last thing we want to do is be connected with other people, right? We just want to be by ourselves. And that's when we need that human connection the most. Here's the real tricky part. You need to be very intentional on who you surround yourself with, right? Family, friends, other parents that have children with disabilities, with special needs, right? You have to be very intentional, because one of the things that I will tell you is caregiver burnout is contagious. It is totally contagious. And so if you're surrounding yourself by other women that get it, but all you're doing is complaining, that actually makes caregiver burnout worse. You will go deeper into the bowels of burnout, okay? So I always tell my kids, you can visit Pity City, but you may not live there, right? So you do not want to surround yourself with people that want to build a house in Pity City with you, right? So be very intentional about the people you surround yourself with, because you want to surround yourself with people that get it, that understand, but that are also going to help lift you up, help brainstorm with you, right? Barb and I had a support group many years ago when our kids were little, and there was one gal who was part of the support group, bless her heart. And I don't think she ever had a good day in her whole life, ever, okay? I don't think I ever saw this woman smile. She used to call me at 10 o'clock at night. She'd be crying. She'd call me at 1 in the morning, why me? This is so hard, this is so hard. And finally I was like, oh my gosh, you are sucking the life out of me, right? And so as you get older, you realize that it's okay to be boundaried with people like that, because it was like an anchor. It was like pulling me down, so I had to be very, very guarded with my time. And eventually I just stopped calling back. And that's not rude. That's just self-preservation, right? So, because at the end of the day, you can fill yourself with people that lift you up, build you up, that are going to help you, that might swap services. You might be able to work out something, right? But if all you are surrounded by is with people that are just, this is horrible, then it becomes self-fulfilling and it gets worse. Okay, so be really, really intentional. It is contagious. Yeah.
I have a quick question about that. So,
Yeah.
All right, so when I'm with a dear friend who's really in a bad way,
Yeah.
and I'm, dropping off a cup of tea for her to give her a break, and she's like in total implosion mode and explosion mode. She's mad at the world, but I mean, she has a very difficult situation. Just for example, what are things that we could do? I could do to turn the page, or to at least bring a supportive awareness to her. Mm-hmm.
So,
what is the healthy way to?
So as a coach, what you do is you ask questions, right? You don't give the solutions, right? So the best thing you can do to her is say, how can I support you? What is one way that I can support you? You open up, again, that conversation, open up the dialogue, because you might find that, you know what, it's okay, that listening ear. But what I'm saying is, if all that relationship is constant negativity, as a friend, it is appropriate to say, and all the research I did to prepare this topic, it's okay to get some help. It's okay to get some professional help. Some people are so far in the pit that they really need professional help, and it's okay to say that. Now, it's how you say it, right? I think you're a whack job and you need help, right? No, you're not going to say that. But offer up, you know what? It's been my experience that, when you get to this place and it sounds like you have been journeying for a while and you are really in a hard place, have you considered getting some professional help? Because they can be fantastic, right? It's just being boundaried. You have to be boundaried or they will suck you under.
Well, and I also think, so what often happens is, just out of friendships in our special needs world, sometimes a parent is in a really bad place.
Right.
And you just happen to see them at a time when they just need to unload.
Right.
But sometimes as women and moms, we want to fix it.
Right.
So I think that's the hard thing.
Right.
Is to manage your own emotions about wanting to be helpful.
Right.
And recognizing what you can do and what you need to say. And so, checking in on them. But,
Yeah, and I think that you're right, though, but that gets back to the question, how can I help you? Because sometimes, have you ever had this conversation with your husband? Like, men are typically the fixers, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, my day was horrible. And they're like, well, you could have done blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I do not want you to fix this. I just want you to go, honey, that sucked, right? That's what we want. So to be there as a listening ear, maybe that's all she really needs. I'm not saying you shouldn't be there for friends. That's not this. What I'm saying is, if you're surrounded by people that they've never had a good day and it's chronic, it is negative, you need to really limit your time with those folks, because it will drag you under. It will contribute to your burnout as well, okay? So what are ways that you make connections? I want to think about ways that you fill your cup by connecting with people. What are some of the things you guys do? Is it a cup of coffee with a friend? Sandy?
I have a standing date every 2 weeks with a group of friends.
Love it.
School.
Love it.
We meet at the corner bakery at this time.
Love it.
And if you can make it, great. If you
And
can't,
if not,
see you
great.
soon.
Love that, because you're carving in time on your schedule to make sure you're filling your cup with those connections. Look, this isn't about meeting up with somebody every single day for 2 hours. It's about doing something that's very intentional, that you're going to surround yourself with other people that fill your cup, that they're fun to be around, or you know what, that you can commiserate, but then you'll be able to have a good laugh as well, right? Anybody else? I love that. Anybody else have something that they're very intentional about doing, or little ways? Yeah.
I meet with a group of friends, but then after we do something, we always set the next date.
Love it.
Something to look forward to.
Yes. So you know, okay, 2 more weeks, if I can just hang in there 2 more weeks, right? Yeah, yeah, that's great, that's great. And that's a way to keep it going versus, oh my gosh, you guys, it's been 6 months since we saw each other last, right? That's a great idea. Anybody else?
Well, I'm in 2 Bible studies every
Nice.
week, and so we really
Love it.
connect a lot and pray for each other too. But I also have a group of friends that I meet for Marriott, so we get season Marriott tickets.
Nice.
And sometimes we do other things too, but that's always set, and you can kind of dress up and,
Yeah,
you know,
love it.
so, yeah.
I love it. All of those are great ideas. They're things that you're being very intentional. Remember, we're not saying do this every single day. If you can, great. It could be as simple as just having a 5-minute conversation with a friend at the end of the day, or having a cup of coffee with a friend for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be something huge. But what I love about the things that all of you ladies said was you've scheduled them in your calendar. Trust me, if you don't take time to schedule it, it's not gonna happen. So it should have a regular space on your calendar, okay? So think about how you might be able to make a connection with somebody that's gonna fill your cup and have it be a regular space on your calendar. Take a minute and write something down where, you know what, I'm gonna see if my 2 girlfriends wanna get coffee once a month, whatever it might be. Okay?
Another thing, I just told my girlfriend that there's a crafting, a regular crafting.
Love it, love it.
So, you know, every,
Yes,
you know, come over Thursday night and we'll do.
I love it. And even if you're not into crafts,
And we let people do whatever they want.
Right,
They want
right.
knitting, they want whatever, or they want
Right.
to participate with other people are doing.
Right.
eat, whatever.
right? I love it. You know, do you guys remember, this isn't as popular now, or maybe it's just because our kids are older, but do you remember all the days of the pampered chef, all of those little parties, and it'd be like, yes, please, yes, please, I'll go, because it was just something to get out and give yourself a break, right? So it can be something as simple as that too, but I love it, crafting. Okay, so connect, make sure it has a regular space on your calendar. Self-care. I love this one because I'm sure you're looking at me going, okay, this blonde has no clue. She has no clue. She looked at my plate. I don't have time to take care of myself, right? And so what this is all about is doing little things that you can to nurture yourself. There's a reason why when you're on an airplane and they say make sure you put your oxygen mask on yourself first and then on your small child, because you can't help somebody if you are depleted. You can't fill into other people's cup if your cup is empty, right? So how do we do it? There are simple ways we can do it. There are the basics, and we're going to talk about that. And then there are just some little ways to pamper yourself that, again, if it has a regular spot on your calendar, you're going to feel so much better. First, eating well. We've already established the fact that Cheryl does not eat well when she's stressed and burnt out. I turn to junk food, right? And the problem with that is you're filling yourself, and for the immediate gratification, it's awesome, right? But then about 30 minutes later, it's like, it zaps your energy, right? So it's like, I better have another Snickers. I gotta pick myself up, right? So if you're doing that and you're filling yourself with junk food, it's actually your body's working so hard to digest that, and then what happens is it's not giving you energy, right? Some of you might be the other way, which I totally don't understand. The people that are like, I'm so stressed I haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm like, really? I've probably eaten enough for you and I, right? So, but that's not filling you, that's not giving you energy either, right? So you have to make sure that you're making some healthy choices. Now, does this mean that sugar shall never enter your body again? That complex carb? No. But it's about being intentional about making sure there are some fruits and vegetables in your diet, make sure you have protein, making sure you're setting yourself up for success. If I know I'm gonna be out carting my young adult around all day long, maybe it's throwing a cheese stick and a couple apple slices in my purse, so that they have those packs now where you can have cheese and nuts. It's awesome, where you can have a snack that's on hand that's actually going to fuel you versus drain you, although the Snickers is so much more enticing, right? So really it's about eating well. It's also about proper sleep. Oh my goodness, proper sleep. Do you know that the National Federation for Sleep says the average American needs, at our age, 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night? I would take 3, right? I mean, there's some of you probably that have not had a great night's sleep in a while. Anybody else sleep deprived in here? Yeah? Yeah. So sometimes, right, it might not be a chronic thing. I remember when my daughter first transitioned over from high school, and we were going to try. They told us, you really shouldn't have her take any classes at Harper. She's not ready. She can't do it, what have you. We tried. We transitioned her over, and it was a disaster. A disaster. They told me I couldn't be in the meetings. She came home with a full plate of with classes that were like, I'm like, they have you taking physics? Like, what's going on here, right? And what are the accommodations? Don't they know that you get extended time? Until I realized that she could sign something and I could be in the room, right? We all learn the little tricks of the system, but it was a disaster, and she was on the verge of an emotional breakdown. I'm not even kidding you, it was horrible. I was not sleeping at all. I was not sleeping. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do to her? I just threw her onto an island with no supports, no help, and now she's really second guessing herself. It was horrible. So I was not sleeping. Then put on top of that, my younger son got diagnosed with something. And so now you've got all this, and so, you know, okay, I'm like this at night. Like, my husband's like, why don't you sleep? I'm like, you know why I don't sleep? Because the last time the fire alarm went off, you didn't wake up. This is why I do not sleep, and I'm not kidding, that is a true story. Okay, so I actually had to go to a sleep doctor. I'm not kidding, because the sleep deprivation got so bad. And I was in a chronic state of sleep deprivation. And you have to relearn and reteach your body how to fall asleep without the TV being on, right? All of those things. So sleep is so important, but when you do get the proper sleep, what happens? What happens is you're more fresh, your mind is alert, you feel better, right? So it really is about trying to make sure that this is something that you are doing very intentionally so you can function at a better pace. Exercise and movement. Yeah, that's what I feel like doing when I'm burnt out and I'm fatigued. Let me go to a spin class for an hour, right? That's not what we feel like doing, right? That's not what comes to mind, right? But exercise and movement, you don't have to be doing an hour at a spin class. You don't have to be doing, you know, those Pendleton, right? You guys have seen those commercials where she's like on the bike and the wind is blowing in her hair and she's on the beach. I'm like, yeah, right? I just want to be on the couch with my Snickers, right? So exercise and movement can be as simple as moving 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Just get yourself moving, because it really does release the endorphins that make you feel better. It doesn't have to be something, and you might not even have the ability to do it every single day. Maybe it's 3 times a week. You go for a 20-minute walk in the morning or at night, whatever. But it really will have great, great benefits if you can fill in exercise. Just remember, it's not the all or nothing. This is not, you know, you have to be training for a marathon or nothing, right? It's just getting yourself moving, and it really does make a difference. The last way is pampering yourself. I would just ask you, what fills your cup? What are little things that you can do that take care and nurture yourself? It might be giving yourself permission to read 15 minutes before you go to bed. It might be getting up 10 minutes early to have a cup of coffee by yourself in solitude without everybody coming at you, right? It might be having lunch with a friend. What are some of the ways that you pamper yourself that are little quick hits? So what I want you to do right now is...
I got to say this.
Yeah.
I have a Snickers bar.
Okay, she's out. So what I want you to think about are ways that you can do this. Take a few minutes. I was going to have you move into groups, and I don't know if we have enough time to have you move into groups. Do you guys want to move into groups real quick, or you want to do it yourself? Self. Okay. So think about, have you had any success in any one of these? See, you want to isolate. We want to connect. So where have you had success in any one of these categories? I've figured out a way to always have a healthy snack on hand. I figured out a way, melatonin, to help me fall asleep at night. And really, seriously, what have you done where you've been able to really incorporate a few of these things to help take care of yourself? I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to write down a few things, and then I'm going to call on you. So make sure that you have an answer, right? So what are some ways that you have figured out to address this? Have success in pampering and self-care. Things that you've done successfully to help promote self-care. Little tricks you found to help you eat better, sleep better, exercise. Engage in activities that fill your cup. Okay? Anybody want to share? I will start calling on you. Yes, please.
Well, I'm wearing this Fitbit.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody wears one, but you at 10 to the hour, it always goes off and says, oh, you can
Move, right.
And I was surprised because I was sick a couple days and I wasn't able to walk much, and you don't.
Right.
And you look at that and it's horrifying, so.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
So just a little reminder to get up and move. And really, it's like you start getting this little thing that's yelling at you. You're like, seriously? Take it off. You know, but it does help.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Absolutely. My husband is a freak about getting his 10,000 steps. Absolute freak. He's like, oh my gosh, I've got to now go out and run because it's almost midnight. I'm like, you go have fun. You go, honey. Go get your 10,000. Anybody else? Things that you found, Sandy?
A couple things. One is long baths.
Oh, love it. Love it. Like to the point where you get pruny?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, and you keep adding the hot
I
water?
take my Kindle with me and I
Love it.
read and I take
Love
a
it.
long bath. I'm also passionate about hobbies. I sew quilts and stuff like that.
Awesome. You have no idea how much that really helps. It relieves stress. And they say that even just that mindless, you know, you're doing activities.
As involved we are with the disabled community, it's just nice to have something that's not in that world.
You bet. Love it. Love it. Anybody else? Those are great ideas. Yes.
I joined a gym.
Yes.
And even though it's like hard to go,
Yeah.
because I go like at maybe 8:30 in the
Yeah.
evening, I find that when I'm there, I really enjoy it. So I
Love
go,
it.
like 2 or 3 times.
I love it. And that, you know what, good for you. Because here's the thing. I work with so many parents as a coach where they're like, I need to exercise. And I said, okay, so what's your goal? I'm going to go 7 times. You're setting yourself up for success. You're going from 0 to 7. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen, right? So 2, 3 times, you can always gradually increase, right? But don't set yourself up for success, because what happens then? You never go. Then it's like, I didn't go, and it didn't go again, and forget it, I'm not gonna go. So good for you, that's awesome. You had an idea?
I was going to say on a similar line.
Yeah.
You know, I've been exercising as well.
Yeah.
But my schedule varies from
Yeah.
day to day, depending on meetings and things. So what I will do is at the beginning of the week, so every Sunday, I will like block out time.
Love
for
it.
4 or 5 days a week. And I obviously end up dropping one. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to go work out at this time.
Love it. I love that, and you're being intentional, and that is, how can you incorporate it into your week, right? Because if we don't sometimes even just schedule it, it doesn't happen. So that's great. That's taking it even one step further, where you're being very intentional about making it show up on your calendar. Anybody else? Yeah.
I've been trying to walk before breakfast.
Love
to
it.
save myself. I mean, I always wake up starving, but.
Yeah.
So I say, you can't eat.
Must not eat.
So if I want to have my breakfast.
I love it.
Then
I love it.
even if it's really short.
Even if it's short, it doesn't matter. You're moving. It could be 5 minutes. For me, it would be 5 minutes around the kitchen going, there's the food. I'm coming, right? That's awesome. But you know what? You're starting off your day with that, and that sets up the rest of the day. Exercise in the morning is a great way to do it. Not everybody can do it, and not everybody's a morning person. But I know myself, if I don't do it in the morning, it is not happening on the end of things, right? No way. So that's a great suggestion.
8:30 at night. That's
Yeah.
when I'm like.
And there are people that do that. My sister works out at night. She's like, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, kickboxing. I'm like, great. I'm having popcorn, you know? But that's mine. But I get up in the morning and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just walking on the treadmill. That's it. And she's like, yeah, I'm still waking up. I'm not even sure why we're having this conversation, right? So anything else that comes, Barb?
No matter what has to be done,
Yes.
make sure that I am in bed by 11.
I love that.
And then I have my own routine, it's like no matter what. And then in the morning, the same thing, I make sure I'm up at a certain time, and I always make my bed. There's something about having my bed.
Yeah, I know. It's so true.
So luxurious.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
I know, I'm like, that's right.
But you know the thing, you've said a couple of things that are really important, that really being very intentional about going to bed at the same time and honoring that, because even if you're not tired, it can become a little bit of a respite time, right? And then the other thing is just getting up, making your bed, and feeling like something is organized. You know how they say, like, if your house is in total chaos, which don't pop in on my house, but if your house is in total chaos, it's probably showing up in other areas of your life, right? And so that's great. That's a piece that you have control over. One of the things the sleep doctor said to me is exactly that you need to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. Whether it's Saturday or Sunday, you don't want to sleep in. I'm a morning person, so that's never been my issue, but going to bed is like, I seriously, this has gotten dark. Last night, I'm not kidding, we finished dinner. It's 6:30 and I go, I think I'm gonna get my jammies on. And my daughter's like, it's 6:30. I'm like, I know, I'm tired, right? So, but if you're constantly going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time, that really does help promote healthy sleep. Great ideas. Anybody else? Yeah.
Just giving myself permission to like seek professional help. And to
Absolutely.
talk to someone
Yes.
else that is an objective person.
Yes, that's exactly right.
My brain around.
And we need to respect that mental health is just as important as physical.
Absolutely. In fact, you remember caregiver burnout was defined as physical, emotional, and mental fatigue. It's a huge component, and you're right, giving yourself permission. And who better to talk to somebody that actually is equipped with the tools to help make a difference and make an impact. But nobody likes to talk about that thing, but giving yourself permission is so important to do that. That's awesome. Great. You guys had good ideas. Awesome. You guys actually worked well independently. I'm not forcing you to connect. All right. All right, last one, ask for help. We are so good at giving help, right? How many of you are great about asking for help? Yeah, no, right? We're like, no, I'll do it, sure, I'll do it, I'll make the meal, right? That's what we do as moms. We give, we put everybody else first. But it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's actually a sign of strength, okay? And so I would encourage you that when you need help, one thing happen. You be very clear about what you need and communicate it, okay? So you have to be very direct and clear about what you need and communicate it, because I don't know about you guys. I don't know if any of you else have the disease I have, that I think everybody in my life should be able to read my mind. Yeah? Yeah, and it's like, I come home and I'm like, okay, wait a second. How come all these dishes are in the sink? I really have to ask my 21-year-old to do the dishes, right? My husband, why didn't he offer to take my daughter to her appointment tonight? Why didn't he offer? I didn't ask. It's really not on him, it's on me, right? But I'm always waiting for it. And I think it comes down to, as moms, we're the band leaders, right? Don't you want to come back in your next life as just being in the band? I'm kind of tired of being the band leader, right? And so it's all about asking, because you know what? At the end of the day, friends, family, your spouse, significant other, whoever's in your life, they really do want to help. They do, but they don't know how oftentimes. And so it gets back to being direct. I loved your idea about the carpooling and trying to get your daughter. This could be something that you could ask somebody else in your life, aside from your daughter, about, you know how you could really help me? Once a week, X, Y, and Z. And I guarantee you friends will be like, I'll do that. It's great. Sure. I want to help, right? So it's about asking for help, but you have to be very clear. You can't assume that everybody's going to just know what your needs are, okay? We don't have to do this alone. So I want you to think about, other than, there are also resources. Online, there are so many great resources. So you might be going through that transition. You might have found a great website. There are all kinds of resources online where you can get help. It doesn't necessarily have to be through another person, right? So maybe you found a particular site that's been extremely helpful, or you're part of an organization that shares all kinds of resources. So I want you to think about, where could you use help, and have you had success in asking for help? So think about it. I'm not going to make you connect. Think about it. Write down a couple places you've had success in asking for help, okay? And that might be able to spark some things for other people. So where have you asked for help before and it's been successful? Okay, anything come to mind for anybody? Linda?
So I think the joy and the struggle of doing CTC is that it's a lot of work.
Yes.
And I think the struggle I have, and probably other board members, is that we love what we're doing, but there gets to be a point where it's not, it starts to become a burden, and it should never become a burden because it's the thing we really enjoy the most.
Right.
So she's been taking over a lot of, I got to the point where I was just burnt out and had too many different things that I was doing, and Barb has taken over a lot of those things for me lately, and I've been so appreciative because we all, that's the struggle for me. I want to do it all.
Right.
It's fun, and I like it, and it's fulfilling, and it's all these things, but I can't do it.
That's exactly right. I love that you recognize that, though, because actually that really is the first step, right? Is recognizing that we can't do everything. We have great intentions. We want to help. We want to say yes to everybody. Yes, I can make you a meal. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. And then what happens? We become more burnt out, right? And so you have to be able to say, you know what? I need help. And it's okay to ask for help. It's actually a sign of strength. Anybody else? That's great. Great example.
I just want to say that Linda's helped me through very difficult times too, so we have a
Yes.
good partnership that way. It's like, okay, uncle, do it.
Right.
And then where can I step in, where can I step in? I do think that when you do have those really strong, positive relationships, even on your worst days, you find a way to help each other. You hear, even if the person isn't up for asking specifically for help, you hear that need. And then you ask, what can I do to help you, right? We all do it all the time. And so I think that's an important thing to recognize, those relationships that are so trusting and so positive, and those people in your world, like you said, move away from the toxic relationships. You really, be that magnet, be drawn to those people who really bring you joy. And even if they can't solve your problems, they are there to make you, you're laughing about it or you're crying about it.
Exactly, or both, right? And I think you said something really important. You said, you can hear it in somebody's voice when they're just in that space and it's like, what can I do, right? But I would invite you to be proactive as well, because we need to do that and offer up that compassion. But it's also important that when we are starting to feel that way, that it's okay to ask a friend, ask somebody for help, right? Because I know, like on the board, there's not one of you that would say, no, I'm not gonna do it, right? You're gonna say yes, you're gonna figure out a way to help one another. Were you gonna say something over here?
One of the struggles that I have is what would help me is to find a way to get additional help for my daughter
Yes.
with disabilities.
Yes.
Because I find it difficult to feel the full responsibility for trying to help her to become more responsible, help her to learn, help her to become more self-sufficient. And, once they age out of the school system, and I haven't figured out how to tap into resources that will help her, which would ultimately help me.
Absolutely.
It's very difficult for me to feel like I can be the right coach for her
Right.
for everything.
Yeah, it's real easy once they come out of that school system to feel like you're kind of left navigating without a roadmap of any sort, right? And everybody's needs are different and everybody's journey is different, so what might work for some might not work for others. There's so many different paths. Has anybody found a really good resource, something that worked for you when you were in that situation? We're all here together. What would you share? What would be the pearl of wisdom that you would give?
And I don't know if you have funding or anything like that, but I've used it instead of paying a personal support worker. I've used it to pay a behavior therapist to come in and do that independent skill so that it frees up my morning so that I'm not, because the mom gets the brunt of everything.
Right.
So you're going to get pushed back no matter what. But if it's someone else stepping in, then I could step back, have a cup of coffee, and my daughter's better off.
And I guess that's a little bit of maybe where we're at as a family is, we're on the PUNS list, we have Medicaid and all those kinds of things, but yet how does that translate into funding? How do you make that transition to accessing the services? We eventually access some services through DRS for vocational purposes. But that's through the whole, that process. But nobody's stepping up and saying, oh, well, we have this that we can offer your daughter, or this service, a resource we could offer your daughter. And so that's where I kind of run into a roadblock, is feeling frustrated with finding help for her that will take some of that burden and responsibility off of me.
Anybody
I'm
else?
not the best one for it.
Right, Barb?
Right, you need a break, right? And
they get tired of us moms.
She doesn't want to listen to me.
Well, sometimes Will's like, oh my God, you again? What about NWSRA, any of the special rec programs so that she can go to? There's like the cooking clubs and different activities. There's the social groups, yeah, there's the bowling, there's an art class that started on Saturdays.
And you know-
Erica's right here.
And since she was a toddler, we have always looked to that as a resource. And there were times when there were things that were a fit for her, but she, some of the categories that programs are appropriate for are pretty broad. And, she has a part-time job, and so she kind of doesn't fit a particular category. She's got some skills, but yet she's really lacking some cognitive pieces. So we haven't really found that to be a good match for her.
Does she need someone with her in the?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, then I would think of things like meetups. You can
Yeah.
Google
Okay, how do
meetups.
you access?
You just Google meetups.org or
Yeah.
.com. And they'll list in your area different activities, like there's a frisbee club for young adults.
Mhm.
There's a bar night bingo.
Right.
One in Barrington.
And-
So there are things, I mean,
And even CTC, we offer some social events,
And I
as well.
noticed that, and I'm just kind of starting to notice that
Yeah.
there is more out there, but I'm really not that sure what to
So here's the thing, you get started, right? And so like Barb said, you go to meetups, right? Exactly, so you go to that site, which is awesome, and then you can see what's out there. And what'll happen is, as you go to these meetups, that's exactly right, you're gonna get more ideas and you'll start to talk to the other parents. And that's the thing, we're a community, right? And so it's about talking to other moms, what have you found that's been helpful? And then all of a sudden you'll get another idea. You'll go to one of our socials and you get some other ideas. So you just have to start. And even if it's not a perfect fit, that's okay, because it's an opportunity for you to network and find out some other ideas.
I do want to
Yeah.
jump in about the meetups. They're
Yeah.
not for special needs necessarily. I mean, it's all inclusive. Anyone can participate. It's based on interest. So you could also do that with the community college. You could do it with your park district. Sign up for an art class or a clay modeling class, whatever it is that she likes. If she doesn't have to only go in a special needs program.
Yeah.
And NWSRA is great. Do you guys do inclusion for adults as well? Okay, see, so there you go. For the park district program. So this is about going out there. This is the exhausting part as parents of our kids as they age out of school is entitlement ends and it's all our jobs.
Yes.
Like we have to do the whole kit and caboodle. We have to find those people to do, where we can delegate and have them do it. So yeah, it's about, like you said, just go try it.
Just start talking, start networking, and other moms are the best resources out there by far.
There's also, I'm not one for Facebook, but I do go on Facebook just to check out. There's a site called iPad Unite, and it's a parent and professional forum that you could just ask questions like, hey, what do people do here?
Yeah.
And you'll get a ton of response.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
Resources page of our website.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's a really great resource. That's a good one.
Describe your daughter and say where you live and say, anybody have any ideas, and you'll for sure get some responses. It's a great.
See, this is why we all need to be together to share these ideas. I want to be respectful of the time, of course. Caregiver burnout, it's absolutely real, right? And I know you guys are tired, you're exhausted, but it's really important that you recognize when you're starting to get there that it's time to push the pause button, reset, and make sure we're taking advantage of really re-energizing ourselves. I shared 5 strategies. Self-compassion, super important. To be your own best friend. It's okay, right? This is hard. It's a hard journey. And giving yourself that grace that it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to feel frustrated. But then taking action. reevaluating your priorities. You got a tool. Hopefully, there were some things that you thought of that, you know what, I really don't need to be doing this. I could definitely be delegating this, or I could definitely be taking it off my plate. Because when you do that, you're going to free up some time to do some things, self-care, some of these other things. Connecting. We connected. You were all resistant to connection. No, I'm just kidding. It's all about sharing our ideas. It's things like this where you're asking for some guidance and some direction, and some people say, this has been helpful for me. This has been helpful for me. It's not about surrounding yourself with people that are depressed and don't have a good day. Be intentional on who you're surrounding yourself with. It's okay to commiserate with one another, but also be able to have the positive side of things as well. Self-care, we talked about lots of little different ways, right? You don't have to start training for the marathon today, but just doing little intentional things to help take care of your body so you can take care of your others. It is impossible to fill somebody else's cup when your cup is empty, okay? And then asking for help, knowing that it's not a sign of weakness, but it's really a sign of strength. And people want to help, they just don't know how, okay? So, we have just a couple minutes left. What I challenge you to think about is, after you've heard this presentation today, write down 2 things that you're taking away, 2 things you're going to do different. It might be as silly as, I'm going to do a weekly standing cup of coffee with a girlfriend. 2 things that you're going to do as a result of, we've given you 5 strategies. What are 2 things you can do that are going to help you reduce your burnout? And I have a fun little treat that Barb made for us. There was a speaker at the Transition Summit. I don't know how many of you come to our Transition Summits. And she was just lovely and very funny. And she said that everything is better with her, what are they called?
Toffee squares.
Toffee squares.
She does their medicine. Her name is Eileen Bennett. She has 2 sons who are highly impacted by autism.
Yep.
That are in their 40s now, so in their early 40s. And her story was, every morning she gets up and she makes a batch of toffee squares, and she has 1 in her purse to go for the day. She has 1 at breakfast, and anytime she's having a rough time, and this lady was thin as a rail, so I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how she did it. She had a toffee square.
She said they're truly medicinal.
Medicinal.
So I had to make them.
So Barb made them for us, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room very quickly. Tell me one thing you're going to do differently when leaving here and you get a toffee square. And then when you go home and you eat these delectables, then just have a couple carrot sticks. It'll be good, okay? Okay, what are you going to do differently? Give me one thing you're going to do differently.
A friend that I know, but I don't meet with her, but I'm going to ask her if she'd like to meet for coffee.
Love it.
Once a month.
Once a month. I love it. What are you going to do differently?
I am going to get my financial papers in order.
Love it. Love it. That's in the upper left quadrant, right? Well done. What are you going to do?
Oh, I was going to say connect with friends once a month, but how about like get my nails done like every
I love that. I love that. That's a good one. Let's all go together. I love it. What are you going to do differently?
So, yes, I need to have our special needs trust need to relook that because it's
Yeah.
a few years old.
Right, right. Update that. Good one. That's a good one.
Movie night and just maintain my routines and know that that is pampering myself. But hearing you, I'm like, yeah, I got to get my financial papers in.
Financial papers,
And
that's
I have to
good.
make with some doctor appointments. So yeah, I can do all of those.
Okay, good, good. Thank you. What are you going to do?
I think I'm going to delegate more household chores.
I love it. Yes, that's a good one. Delegate, delegate.
I am going to ask a friend to work out.
Love it. And you know what's so fun about that is then you have some accountability, right? If you're going with somebody else versus, oh, I'm just going to start an exercise program, that's great.
So not being a parent, but a provider at
Yeah.
Pursuit, I'm going to vow that at least one night a week, I'm going to leave the work laptop at work.
I love it. That's a good one. That's a great one because it's hard to step away, right? What are you going to do that's different?
I am going to start to schedule either a walk outdoors or
Love
on my
it.
treadmill.
Either one.
At least 3 or 4 times a week.
Perfect, perfect. Good
And set my
job.
alarm in the morning
Yep, I love it. That's great. You are so welcome. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm a list maker, so I'm going
Love
to
it.
reprioritize my listings so that I can move things to down here.
I love it. I love it. And that tool really is so incredibly helpful to really help you figure out what's really important. What have I been putting off? What have I been dreading? And really focusing in on those things first. And
I'm going to try and have a chat with my daughter who's graduated college and is back home, and
nice.
She's not my special needs one,
Right.
You know, and yet she is a drain, and
yeah, and she could probably be a help, right? I actually think what you should do is have her be at your home for a week and go to Lake Geneva and go to the spa. I think we should go with her as a connection, right? That's what this is all about, but that's great. That's great. You guys had great ideas. Great ideas. Otherwise, I thank you so much for coming. You are all super moms, in my view, and I mean that very genuinely. Our road is tough. Our road is really gratifying. There are so many blessings that really do evolve from this journey, but the caregiver burnout is real, and we need to recognize that and take care of ourselves and take care of one another. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for your time.